welcome to the solar system series known as Why, where we talk about the coldest sign in this ecliptic known as Scorpio. Now, to understand why Scorpio is this way, you need to know where Scorpio came from. First things first, Scorpio is fixed water, being fixated on your own way of feeling and adding emotion to things. And you ever wondered why people say, damn, that person is cold as an ice cube? They were probably a Scorpio. They were so deep, so dark, that they didn't share their emotions whatsoever because they probably feel that others couldn't handle it. Now, before we get sidetracked, let's explain where Scorpio came from and why it is the way it is. So, Scorpio was born from the 8th house. The 8th house is the life situation of anything you're unaware of in general. It's not that scary, it's just occult things behind closed doors, and as I mentioned, anything and everything that you are unaware of in general. Now, Scorpio is ruled by Mars, the planet of passion, willpower, aggression, motivation, intent, and basically any emotion that gets your ass up off the couch and actually doing something. Scorpio is also co-ruled by Pluto. To understand Pluto's influence, which is basically the power to change, you need to understand Mars, because Pluto is Mars multiplied to whatever degree you want above 10. It's so intense that it puts you through a transformation experience that will either give birth to something or kill something off. But that's kind of a conundrum right there, because to create the space for birth, you need to kill something off. Now, Scorpio is also away in Earth as well as Venus. Earth is the vibration of growth, structuring, nurturing, and if you want to really understand Earth, just throw a seed on the ground and watch a plant grow, and that's the vibration of Earth in a nutshell. Now, it's also away in Venus, as I mentioned. Venus is the planet of love, appreciation, values, as well as how you relate to others. Now, to move to the worst placement for Scorpio, we have the moon. The moon is your mind, your reactions, how you respond to things, as well as your emotional state. And these are the basic planets, houses, and elements, as well as modalities that break down the archetype of this fixed water sign. Now, moon and Scorpio. So before we get into the whole alignments and actual breakdown of the influence of how this plays out, let's talk about the moon. So the moon is your emotional state. It's how you react and respond to things. It's your mind state, your mind frame, your mindset. This all deals with your moon right here. Now, why this is important is because you have to remember how Scorpio is placed in its ruler, right? It's not like Aries where it just acts, and it's not in the sun placement where you're just going to be consciously seeing this from the world. Scorpio is the feminine side to Mars. So with this being a receiving planet here that receives in information and doesn't emit light out unless asked, so, the moon is a don't speak unless spoken to type of planet, you will be just sitting there all the time, reacting and responding, and probably not reacting or acting on it at all, depending on your sun sign. And even if it is your sun sign, you're only going to show what you want to show. You will be sitting back and just observing everybody's emotions, their subtle motives, what's their motivation behind this, what's their intention behind this. You can't meet someone for the first time and not wonder what their intentions are at all. That is just not you whatsoever. You always have that little program going on inside your head where it's like, what's really going on with this person, And you'll ask that even when it's uncalled for, You may even ask that, find yourself thinking that type of thing when you're around kids to some extent. You're like, yeah, why do you want this cookie? Why do you want this treat? Why do you want this present? And they may not even know why, but you're still wondering. And you may even act on that periodically when you shouldn't have, and you're just going overboard a little bit, This is how just Scorpios are when your mind's always on. I mean, think about it. If you were paranoid that somebody was just like having malintent, or there's always something going on behind this person's mind, or like there's always something that they're keeping just a little bit surface level, you'd probably be a little paranoid too periodically and act on something you shouldn't. This is what Scorpio moon deal with on a regular basis. It just never stops, it's something they can't unwind. And if you think, say like an Aries moon or something, finds like pain to be just normal and just sort of has a operating frequency of all this bullshit going on behind closed doors that you don't know about because they're going so deep with things that they shouldn't, think again. Scorpio does this at all times. Oh my god, if they don't like something and they really don't like an experience and they have the opportunity to just eradicate that entire experience overall, they will. Now, to break down a little bit what this is on a little, go a little deeper with it, this can be thoughts, feelings, ideas, even genuine experiences. If a Scorpio can cancel something that they don't like, they will. A Scorpio moon person, remember, always deals with this constant awareness of things that they necessarily, the normal person may not want to be aware of. So if they have the opportunity to get out of some extra pain, you will be damn sure they will cut that experience off, whether it could lead to a benefit or not. They will just cut it off, and if they can't, they will brood about it and just sit in pain. Because you have to remember, Scorpio is used to this. They've been doing this a lot longer than everybody else. Their mind frame is in a place that they don't want to be with an astonishing consistency. Of course, they have their good times, not going to discount that, but they're brooding or sitting in some type of something that they don't want to be in, but they're just used to it, so they're going with it anyway. Now, more emotionally aware people will more emotionally aware Scorpio moons will obviously figure out some type of comfortable space, but you have to remember, if they don't like it, and this even extends out to people sometimes, if they don't like a person and they can get away from this person, they will just cut that person off and never talk to them again. And they will leave that person in the dust wondering why this person doesn't talk to them anymore. But since the Scorpio moon is too aware, and if they were to have that conversation with a person and be like, I don't like you and this is why, they probably couldn't handle it, let alone want to handle it, because they will just see how this person's feeling, see how this person's taking it, and not want to receive all that emotion because it would just be too much. They would feel too deeply. It's not because they're weak, it's just because their emotional frequency meter, or whatever you want to call it, is just so tuned the fuck up that they just can't help, and it would just be like a stimulation overload. And don't get me wrong, if you're a Scorpio moon, you have had this experience at some point, and if not, you will at some point too. And this is where you will find that you know how to sting people if the time comes. You get what I'm saying here? These are the type of people to sit and wait, right? So they will put up with your bullshit, and they'll brood about it, and they won't be happy about it. But you best believe that they are plotting and scheming in ways that you are unaware of, ready to strike you where it hurts. They will stab you so sharply, so deeply, because to some extent, a Scorpio moon knows, where you hurt better than you do. And they won't come at you like a Cancer where they just feel it in the moment and hit you and say some shit like, oh, mom always thought you were an accident. Scorpio moons will hit you and say some shit like, man, not only were you an accident from your mother, but you are the devil child, and I will see that everybody sees you as that and ruin you across your entire friendscape and tell them the things that you told me in confidence that you wouldn't want your worst enemy to hear. Well, since you crossed that line, they're gonna hear it. And not to say a Scorpio moon would just come at you just like that and want to ruin you socially, emotionally, and probably financially, depending on what stage of life you're at. But if they had the keys to the vault like that, they would eventually get to that point. Now that I think about it, I imagine a Scorpio moon would hold that over your head first and make sure you feel the pain that you put them through. The deep pain that you probably couldn't handle and make you do something that they want you to do on your own. But it could come to that if they knew that, and they would do it in such a way that you would feel the deep turmoil that they would too. Now, this also sort of kind of touches on whether a Scorpio moon would actually go through all that, because Scorpio moons don't actually like building on things and actually growing things for their own benefit unless they really, really, really appreciate it and it truly gives them that sense of peace. Not saying they would necessarily tell you that something that they enjoyed gave them that sense of peace, but if they really, really enjoyed it, to give you, a little mental construct to use your imagination here, You can imagine a Scorpio moon, for all you kids that have grown up watching Avatar out there, as May. Now, you remember May. She's always like, do I have to? Oh my god, you're Azula, stop. If you could even get a word out of her, you know what I'm saying? But by the time she got her boyfriend Zuko, she actually cracked a smile and got this man out of prison, for those who remember, right? But she wouldn't do anything. She didn't care about anything. She didn't want to put in the work or actually feel anything towards anything. Do you want to know why? Because Scorpio, especially Scorpio moons, feel so damn intensely that it's just so much energy to feel and actually engage with all of this. So it's just easier to cut your tail off and keep it moving. But what you should bear in mind is that foregoing your emotions and foregoing how truly and how deeply you actually feel, you neglect to do the thing that your placement wants you to do to begin with. Because you have to remember, a Scorpio moon is asleep. It falls here. The moon hates Scorpio with every essence of its being because it wants to feel comfortable. And it's the opposite of its exaltation Taurus, which is stability, certainty, something that you don't have and probably crave and sort of envy to some extent. Because, you know, when it's the one thing you can't have and you struggle to achieve, of course you're going to be hating on people. It's the path of least resistance. But eventually you have to learn to build your own emotional foundation and actually, you know, let yourself feel comfortable for once, you know? But obviously, not after hearing all that, one could understand why this person just wants to cut off all their emotions and just, you know, get that stuff away from here, because it's just so painful that you're foregoing the actual comfortability that you want to experience with your moon. You know what I'm saying? But this is all for the purpose of you learning ground up how to build that foundation, how to feel comfortable, how to react and respond from a comfortable place. Because a lot of people, spiritual people, create, you know, and find their foundation out of the deepest, darkest pain. You know what I'm saying? But the thing is that there's such a concept out there as not having to go through that, not having to go so deep that you need to go through a transformative experience and kill off an old mindset to find a new one. You know, Scorpio moons, you know, just based off your alignments, have to do this a lot and kill off their old mind frame and create a new one just to feel reborn and rejuvenated again, that you can actually look at things with a hint of comfortability with new eyes because you just don't know. And you can get rid of all this bullshit so rapidly just by developing a new mind state. But it just, you don't have to do that. So yeah, just sort of cutting off your mind state and letting all that shit go and just having that little phoenix moment where you can birth anew and actually experience comfortability and excitement once more. You sort of, that cycle is what that cycle is trying to teach you, is how to achieve that state of comfortability from the jump, you know? You want to find an actual mind state that you can stick with to some extent and focus on that feeling, because you have to remember, Scorpio is fixed water, being fixated on your own way of feeling and adding emotion to things, that you want to find a mind frame that you can actually stick in for a while. Because as you may have noticed, going through these transformations may have gotten easier and more consistent, but there is also a great benefit to sticking with your own mind state. Why this is for those younger or less aware Scorpios, if you haven't gone through a breakdown in a aware way per se, where you have actually felt and experienced what it's like to be aware and realize that all of these emotions that you've just stuffed down and cut off, you know, stuffed and or cut off, they're just haven't exactly gone away, if you feel what I'm saying here, you know? Like, they're away and not like in your conscious awareness, but they're still floating around inside of you because you haven't dealt with them, and instead of dealing with them and getting rid of them, you still hold on to those feelings that hurt, and you know they hurt and they cut you, but they're just still there, if you know what I mean. You can imagine this as sort of like an IV bag with a slow drip of cyanide, not at a lethal level, but it's always there, it's always present, it's always floating into you, it's always weighing on you. But since you're getting so bogged down systematically by yourself or the world outside of you, it will just eventually explode, and you will have to realize and deal these feelings and rectify what the baggage you've created for yourself has done to you. And it's a freeing feeling, and it could be the final Phoenix moment for yourself, or not, depending on how you go through these situations. But you really need to rectify these things that you're just holding on to and just putting out of your conscious awareness and deal with them. I'm sure you more aware Scorpios have gone through this and figured out some type of system to mediate or mitigate and just mosey on through your life in a calm fashion, but at some point you're going to have to find a new way to go about doing things, and it may not be this lifetime, but it could very well be the next. Why not just get it done right here? Anyways, let's break down the planets of how we derive this information so you can do it for yourself. So, Moon in Scorpio, right? Scorpio is ruled by Mars. It's the feminine side of Mars, so it's receiving all of the intentions from others, especially in this moon placement. It is co-ruled by Pluto, so this is basically Mars multiplied to the whatever degree past 10. It is away in Earth, the planet of nurturing, growth, scheduling, and if you really want to understand this, throw a seed on the ground and grow it from seed to plant to whatever. And then it is also away in Venus, the planet of love, appreciation, values, as well as how one relates to others. Now, it falls in this planet, you have Scorpio right here, the moon. Your mind, your reaction, your emotional responses to things, your mind frame in general, and how you feel about things, your general comfortable state. Anyways, thanks for following the solar system series known as Why, where we talk about the deepest sign in this ecliptic known as Scorpio.